I don't believe in ever retiring, but I think it's really important, especially to have a second act where you can do something entirely different other than what you did in your regular work life.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I speak with fascinating people from all over the world, from every walk of life, who will inspire you to live with zest. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, and my mission is to bring you optimism about aging and help you make full use of the new opportunities that only come at this stage of life. To find out more about the podcast, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. And while you're there, sign up for my weekly email newsletter, The Insider, where you will get fun and quirky tidbits about the show and my exploits, including when I went python hunting in Florida and my participation in the National Senior Games. And if you love the podcast, I'd be grateful if you shared it with your friends. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker, who was a previous guest on the show. Find out more at judybanker.com. And our technical director is Stephen Litweiler.
Hey, Zesties. Hey, check out my brand new YouTube channel. I'm sharing Zestful Aging longevity tips, usually while hiking with my dogs. But I'm also sharing about the upcoming guest, the one that's coming up the Saturday following. And I get to tell you some inside stuff about them and what you're going to enjoy about their interview. So come on over, check it out. It's under Zestful Aging on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Carl Landau hosts the popular podcast, I Used to Be Somebody, inspiring 50-plus-year-olds how to build their unretirement good life, including, of course, a little bit about the virtues of the game he loves, pickleball. He's also co-author of the Amazon best-selling book, Pickleball for Dummies. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, a variety of fun things, unretirement, podcasting, pickleball, and all of that great stuff. Welcome to the show, Carl.
Thanks a lot, Nicole. I'm very excited about being on.
Oh, I'm really delighted to have you. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. The first thing I wanted to ask you is, how do you define unretirement? What is that?
Well, I feel like unretirement is for people that don't want to retire. They want to do something new, something more fun, something more meaningful. I'm someone who really enjoyed the career. I've been an entrepreneur since I've been 25. And the idea, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I've sold 3 media companies. And the last one I sold, someone said, well, what do you got to do in retirement? And it never even occurred to me. To me, the idea of retirement means you're done, you're in the pastures, and just waiting for
waiting to die.
Waiting to die. So I don't believe in ever retiring, but I think it's really important, especially to have a second act where you can do something entirely different other than what you did in your regular work life.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's really catching on for people, this idea of unretirement? How do you see it as a trend?
I definitely do. Particularly people are retiring earlier. We're all living longer. And, and also the other thing is that what's unique is in the, olden days when, I was starting working, people would work for a corporation or they worked for the university and they'd be there 30 or 40 years. They get this big pension. Well, that doesn't really exist, beyond our generation. So it's not unusual for people that are in their 30s or 40s to have 2 or 3 different jobs. It's sort of definitely a trend that it seems to be happening. If you look on LinkedIn and look at like what people are doing, it's usually they're listing 4 or 5 things. So I think this is particularly someone in their 30s and 40s, they're pretty used to doing multiple things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sounds like there's some people who have to continue to work more out of necessity. I
Sure.
just read an article about this trend in Asia where people are working until very late in their lives. But my sense, just from what I can glean, Carl, is this is not necessity for you. This is engagement and curiosity.
Right, exactly. And well, for me, it is necessity. I mean, I think I would be bored to death if I was just like not doing something what I felt was meaningful or fun. So
I see. So for you, it's life. It's not necessarily separating work. It's just who you are.
yeah, and I think particularly if someone's had sort of a big time career and they really enjoyed what they did, there's a certain identity in that that's associated with that. And I've seen people who have had really, big time careers and all of a sudden they're not doing anything and they don't do really well. Unfortunately, I've read a lot of situations where people, hard driving and they wait until they were 65 or 70 or whatever and literally have died like within a couple of weeks.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's not that unusual. So anyway, I just feel like for me and like a lot of people that they definitely need this, we mostly talk about second acts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, second or third acts.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. What strikes me about your work, Carl, is there's such a variety here. And I know that you're a big pickleballer. We're going to talk about that. But you also know a lot about wine and beer and home brewing.
Right. So I originally, I was a magazine publisher for a long time. I started my first magazine when I was 25, raised money and started actually some computer magazines and sold that when I was pretty young. And so I've had a couple of retirements, like in my early 30s, I was able to take off for a couple of years and enjoy having, spending time with my little kids and all that. And then I started a magazine called Brew Your Own, which was the first consumer magazine for people at homebrew beer. And at that time, there were 2 million people homebrewing beer. This was like in the early 90s. And there was like no publication. So I started that and I started a magazine called Winemaker for people that make wine at home. And I also started a business to business magazine called Brew Pub because emerging were these brew pubs and microbreweries. And there were, a couple of association magazines for that, but not one, a professional magazine. And I created that in a conference and trade show, which was the funnest trade show you've ever been to. You walk on the trade show floor and there were probably 80 kegs of the best craft beer you've ever had.
And was this out in California?
We did it all over. I did the first one in San Francisco and then Chicago, and then Portland, Maine. It was a national event, so we moved it around.
Yeah. Well, my husband would be super excited to do that. Is that still going on, Carl?
No, I sold that, and
Okay.
well, the Brew Your Own and Winemaker still exists. So it's I sold it like 20 years ago. So it's been going on for 30 years. The Brew Your Own and Winemaker, and the Brew Pub I sold to a different outfit that it didn't work out for them.
Mm-hmm. So how does this work? Like you're interested and then you research and see if there's a niche or there's interest. What's the process like when you decide to move on with a project? What does that look like?
Well, you're really looking for trends, that are new and that are underserved. So that's what happened, when I was looking at those craft beer and the wine magazine where, wow, there's like millions of people doing this, and there really wasn't, a publication or a conference or a trade show addressing that. And once you get involved in that, then you start, figuring out who the influencers are from like an editorial standpoint and from a sponsorship standpoint. And it's sort of funny once you're in the middle of that, you're like, you just see this opportunity that no one else is seeing for whatever reason. And that's what I've always done. And it's very interesting. I started the podcast. I used to be somebody, and I just on a whim, I called it Pickleball Media because I just like playing pickleball. And you never know how things are going to turn out, in the fact that although the podcast is mostly talk about retirement and second acts, we also have like a segment called Pickleball Life Lessons with Mo. And Mo is my pickleball instructor, and she's absolutely hilarious. And she has done a little stand-up comedy. And she and I just talk about how life reflects, real life reflects also on the pickleball court. And we just have a good time. And as a result of all that and my podcast getting popular, I was asked to, write the Pickleball for Dummies book. And, you just never know where life's going to bring you,
You never know. And that is so true. I was just on a show on my local PBS as as a aging well expert. And it was such a circuitous route. I don't even remember half of how that happened, but it was such a blast and really a lovely opportunity. But you're right. Like, I heard someone have this expression, and I don't know if you've heard it, but like you keep going up to bat, and sooner or later you're going to have hits.
Right. And that's particularly for an entrepreneur. That's what it's all about, is like taking risk. And, some of them are going to work out, some are not. But particularly with like the age of the internet and, being able to do things much cheaper than like I used to be a magazine publisher. Well, that's a big expense and all that, but online it's super cheap. So you can just try all sorts of things and see what works and what doesn't. And you just need to pivot really quickly and figure out, where people, you're serving this audience and what they want.
It sounds like one of the characteristics that you're speaking of, and one thing that you're really good at, is being flexible and not getting mired down and, oh, that was a total failure.
Right.
What did I do wrong? It sounds like you're pretty quick on your feet, metaphorically and literally, I'm sure.
Right.
But to say like, okay, that was not a hit, but let me see if I can tweak what, I get the sense that you're able to change it up pretty quickly based on the feedback you're getting.
I think so. It's sort of funny. I did, because I'm this expert, quote unquote, on second acts, I feel like I need to do things, for my audience. And I actually took a class on stand-up comedy, and I did it for 6 weeks. And then the 7th week we performed before about 150 people, a live stand-up, each one of us. And what ended up coming out of that was the theme in my life. I didn't know it when I was younger, because no one that I was dyslexic, because I always had a problem reading and writing. And in my stand-up class, I said, they had a different word for that in the 60s, that you were like just stupid, because no one knew that. So it's interesting. I've read a lot more about being dyslexic, and you learn in a total different way, and you are used to rejection all the time. And a lot of very, very successful entrepreneurs were dyslexic. So you're sort of used to failing a lot, and it doesn't bother you that much.
That's the silver lining, I guess.
It is. It was painful as a child, but actually, as an adult, it really served me quite well.
Wow. I didn't know that part of your story.
Well, you have to listen to my 13-minute stand up. It's on YouTube.
Props for you. I mean, I'm thinking about, hey, do I take that watercolor class or not? And you're doing stand up. I mean, that takes some serious chutzpah. Wow.
Yeah, it does. In fact, the guy who is our teacher is Jack Gallagher, and he's a pretty famous comedian and actor. And he said, if you could do stand up, you're bulletproof. You could do anything because you're in front of these people, and everyone's like, although this was a very friendly group we had, it was mostly friends and family of the comedians up there as far as the audience, but they still, you're sort of up there and people are like, okay, make me laugh,
Oh my gosh. And I'm grouchy. So good luck.
Yeah. And you always focus on that one person who's not smiling and laughing. But, meanwhile, 99% think they're hilarious, but that's sort of how it goes for comedians.
That's really something. That's super impressive.
Hi, everyone. Have you listened to my interviews with Dr. Bill Rawls? He's been on the show twice, and after I read his book on cellular health and learned about his high standards for quality control, I was sold. I placed an order for Vital Plan supplements immediately. And I encourage you to learn about his work by hopping over to vitalplan.com. If you enter Zestful15, they will give you 15% off your first order. I'm excited for you to try these products. I think you're going to be very impressed. Now back to the show.
So the themes that I'm picking up, and I'm a psychotherapist, so you'll have to forgive me, but I'm hearing like resilience. I'm hearing finding silver linings and things that were actually pretty crappy. I'm finding like being able to be really flexible and not taking it personally.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're pretty good at what you do there, Nicole. Yeah, that's...
I've done it for 31 years, so I hope so.
I know. Like part of my stand-up was I talk about this situation like when I was in second grade, the first time we would get grades. And I had a teacher who gave me like a D in spelling and reading. And it's like, and I'm like, what kind of monster gives a young-year-old a D? It was like sort of traumatic at the time. But anyway, that's what you do with comedy, though. You take this tragedy and make it funny.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You're a person that also seems to, well, we've said this a bit, but you seem to like to try new things.
Yeah.
And how does that fit into you aging well?
I think it's great. I think that's actually one of the keys, to having a successful second life or third life or whatever, that you take on new things, because that really keeps you going. You need a reason to get up in the morning. And the idea of, and we talk about it sometimes on my podcast, embracing being the beginner, because we all have these jobs where we were an expert at what we did. And you really like that, and people come to you and they want your opinions and all that. And all of a sudden, if you're retired and not doing that, you're sort of a basic civilian. You don't have that magic power anymore. Yeah. And
no one cares, right?
No one cares. I mean, in fact, when I decided to do the podcast, I had sold my company, and it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. My wife sat me down. She knows me pretty well. And she's like, so Carl, when you're done, this is 2 months before my last day for the new company. I had to do a 1-year deal where I, helped them figure out what we did and all that, which I actually enjoyed. But she's like, the emails are going to stop, and, phone calls will, so what are you going to do? And that's when I came up with the idea of doing the podcasts, which was something totally new. Mm-hmm. And Nicole, I'm sure, you've had a successful podcast for a decent amount of time. It was just fantastic.
Oh my God. I was talking to another podcaster and we're like, it's basically like crack.
Oh, I know. It's like, I feel bad for these people married to us because we we go on and on about it, because mine was weekly. Now it's monthly because a weekly for me was just too much.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. I know. So
I have to deliberately not. I'm very active in tennis, and so I'm on the court with a lot of the same women, and I have to now say they don't care who you just interviewed.
Right. I know. And
they know it's awesome. They already think it's the coolest thing ever. Just keep your mouth shut.
Exactly. And the same thing with pickleball. Oh my God. So we actually teamed up. There's a team of 4. We teamed up with our instructors, Monard and Rianne Steele, who are like fantastic players and instructors. I mean, I live in Sacramento, and they are like the people in pickleball. Cool. And so they were the experts. My wife is actually a writer, and then there's me. And anyway, it was a great combination of people to do it with. And anyway, I just love doing new things. I just think it's really exciting, and you just never know where it's going to turn out. And I guess I like that uncertainty, but some people don't. But I think those people that don't like new things and all that, you sort of have to force yourself. I mean, because life's too short. You need to experience a lot of different things.
Reminds me of a movie that I haven't seen, but I know about. The title is like The Year of Saying Yes, right? And I might be bastardizing that, but I really hope that I can be that person who says, oh, there's someone doing this interesting thing that's weird, but really cool. Do you want to try it? Yeah, sure. I mean, am I scared? Yeah. I'm going to try it anyway.
Yeah, the thing I tell people is, take pickleball, for example. So you're on the sidelines and you're watching, and people are always like, oh, I'll just watch for a while. And I'm like, that's not really how you learn. And, and I did listen to your podcast with Janet Riley.
Oh, yeah.
Who was a great USA pickleball ambassador. And the thing is, I'm like, okay, here's a paddle, and you get out there, and that's the only way you're going to learn anything. But the thing is, like I said earlier, we were all experts at something, and all of a sudden you're a novice. You're going to be terrible, and people, they don't like that. But I'm like, well, just think back when you were 22 years old and you started doing whatever it was, for the first time. I'm guessing you weren't that great at it. So embrace, being a newbie and have fun with it. Make fun of yourself, and pickleball is like the ideal scenario for like making mistakes. Laughing.
You could be as goofy as you need to be.
Yeah. So it's anyway. That's probably one of the main reasons why I like pickleball.
That's great. The culture of it, which I like as a tennis player, is so friendly, and so it's such a different feel. And I'm sure you know this in all kinds of ways. And I know you had a guest talking about being a hardcore Northeast tennis player guy. But there's a way in which it's like you can whiff that thing and not feel shame, so the cone of shame.
Yeah. I don't think any of us are out there like, oh, I think at like 66 years old I'll become a professional pickleball player, and not to knock the tennis people at all, but like they are just a way more serious group and in pickleball. But I play at a club, and it's mostly a tennis club. We only have 4 pickleball courts. They have like 20, I don't know, probably 25, 30 tennis courts.
Big club.
Yeah. And they, but from our little 4 courts, like all the laughter of the club that's where it is that. And it's funny, the tennis players walk by and, they we've converted quite a few of them to
Oh, yeah.
pickleball.
That's true. I used to be a bit of a snob about it, but I had played ball. I don't know if you're familiar. This is like, I played it in Connecticut. It's platform tennis. You have a
Yeah.
wooded, okay. And as a teenager, and I used to be able to beat my dad, who was kind of a bit self-important and, fancy pants. And that was like really important to me. Like, hey, I'm actually beating my dad. So I have a very strong racket sport identity.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, my guest, Janet Riley, I just walked over to the wellness fair in my town and there she was. And boy, what a wonderful introduction. And I was whiffing it because, of course, I expected the paddle to be, like another 18 inches longer. So I kept whiffing it. And, but the whole thing was so good natured. And I think it's also hard to take yourself too seriously because that ball sounds so clunky.
Yeah. Yeah. I look at pickleball as a little bit of the equivalent of bowling. So if you think about bowling, like who is good at bowling? Like no one. I mean, except for professional players.
Right.
So, we all bowl like what? Once a year, twice a year. I mean, the casual bowler. And you just laugh. And like, you're like, when you finally get a strike, it's like, I mean, you're jumping up and down.
Yeah,
like
you can't
super
believe
excited.
it.
So it's like, how serious could you take yourself at bowling? And same with pickleball, and I think socially it's a little bit similar to the bowling world.
I hadn't heard that. But it's like, it's got this blue collar feel.
Yeah.
Or something, it's not all self-important like we can be in tennis. I mean, the whole idea of some clubs still require tennis whites.
God.
You're like, really? Because that's kind of an odd thing. So talk to me about unretirement in your life and where all of these interests fit in. How do you kind of prioritize what gets your time and energy?
Well, it's sort of funny. The reason why I went from having a weekly podcast, and we also have a weekly newsletter, to doing it monthly was, hey, I'm not playing that much pickleball. Seriously. And I decided the priority, and I have a Google Calendar and all that.
Yeah.
So the first thing I put down are the 3 or 4 times I'm going to, in the course of a week, play pickleball. And then I fit work around that.
My God, I love that.
Yeah. And it really changed things for me because, the last thing I want to do as far as like what I'm doing now in the second act is what is like a real job. And as soon as I get that feeling like, oh, this is like a real job, I don't want to do it, or I want to like change it up. Because I mean, finally, I'm 66 years old, and finally, we don't know how long we're going to be on this earth.
That's right.
And I have kids, I have a wife, I have family. You have all these obligations, especially when you're middle-aged. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, you know what? I think this is time for the priority needs to be me and having fun and stop worrying about all these people. Yeah, no, really. And I obviously I'm very close with my family and
you love them, but
this
is a slightly different. You're weighting things differently.
Yeah, I think you really have to. And I think everyone who has like, particularly if you have kids and all that, you're like, I just went in thinking, oh, well, once they're like, 18 years old, everything's fine. They're just off on their own and blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't really work that way. And one day I just figured out, okay, I mean, they're doing pretty good. And I'm just going to stop worrying so much about what they're doing and all that. And that really helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a mindset change, right?
Yeah, it totally is. But I really appreciate when I see them and, do stuff with them and all that. But I just, and particularly my wife, this year we were, it's sort of weird. I unretired, quote unquote, during the pandemic. So talk about a weird time to like not doing a full-time job. And like anyone, who'd worked hard and all that, we had all these plans on traveling and all that, and we couldn't do it. And so now we're like making all sorts of trips. And my wife, she gave me like a little lecture as far as like, because I'm like, well, we'll do these 2 big trips but I think that's enough. And she's like, no, we're going to do a lot more because like, you never know.
You never know. I had a situation very recently where actually my brother died. He was my youngest brother. And
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And I came home and I said to my husband, we're going to Holland this spring. It's a bucket list. I've always wanted to go to the Anne Frank house since I was a little one. Yeah. And I'm actually going to interview somebody that was a podcast guest. And she wrote another book, which is about the resistance fight, the teenage resistance fighters in Holland in World War II. So that's going to be, mind blown. But I'm just like, yeah, we're going dollar strong, dollar weak, don't care. Pulled up my points and was like, what's a good day? And it was just that immediacy of, it's something about like, I know that more life is behind me than in front of me. I get it intellectually. And then sometimes life just hits you over the head.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the same experience. I'm very fortunate in the fact that none of my friends had passed away, and I recognized that the whole time. I'm like, God, I'm so lucky. And just last year, 2 of my friends passed away. And it really hit me hard. It sounds like very similar to your experience with your brother. And it's like, it's a wake up call. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole new level of like, no, we're going to do this. And I actually sat my husband down and said, let's pick the top 5 places that we've always wanted to go. And so we're sort of refining it. It's not easy because, of course, there's so many wonderful places, but there's also, there's some obligations. Can't travel all the time.
Yeah. So, by the way, I've been to that Anne Frank Museum. It's absolutely fantastic.
Is it?
It's really moving.
Oh, it must be. And in fact, I made a strange decision. I'm going to go by myself because I think that some things, I would love to share, but I feel like I kind of need to be alone with my thoughts. My mother's side of my family are all from Poland, and they all immigrated. The Jewish and all integrated here. And I just feel like, boy, I don't know if it's something I want to be talking about. I just feel like I need to experience it in my own, in my own way. And then I guess I could go back. But
I think that's a good call. Yeah.
Yeah. So for our audience who are like, kind of thinking, oh, that sounds interesting, or what's next? How would you advise people being quite fluent in starting different businesses, following different, ideas, different passions, and perhaps they're sitting there thinking, I've got some big question marks about what's next for me. Where does one start?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. And I've interviewed, I think I'm on episode 67. And one big one is sort of like, what were your childhood dreams? I've had numerous people that I talked to, and they had like certain dreams of like being a book author or, owning a winery, or once they got older, or all sorts of like different things. Probably everyone has had this dream, either in childhood or your 20s, or where you're sort of daydreaming about your ideal idea, and this is a chance to try it. And the other thing that I really suggest to people is just do it as part-time basis, or just try to experience it if they want to volunteer, like, yeah, take on 2 or 3 volunteer jobs. And maybe one of those is really something you want to do.
Oh,
People can really get discouraged, though, where they throw everything into this one idea and it may or may not work. And we're at the age right now where, especially if you're fortunately, you don't have the financial problems as far as like doing the, work just for the money, where you could try it and you know what, it's okay to quit, and yeah, generally it's better to like sort of try out 4 or 5 little ideas and see what sticks. I really think that's a good way to go.
sort of shopping for,
Yeah.
to see what fits. And I love your thought about childhood dreams. I will
Mhm.
often ask that. My clients will say, I have no idea where to start.
Right.
And when we're really stuck, I will say, what did you used to like? And I find that to be so stable over time. I mean, I was a little reader. I drew. I wasn't into kickball. I thought that
Hmm.
was I didn't even understand why anyone would want to play something that could smack you in the face. Like that
Right.
scared me. But, I was like doing paper art and all this stuff. And like, boy, isn't that the same, the same kind of interest. And I think that's so true for kids where some people like to do things with animals or take
Hmm.
pictures or
Right.
draw or whatever, build tree houses or whatever. And there's just it seems to be that's a thread that often carries through to middle and older age.
No, it does.
Was that true for you, Carl?
I'm trying to think. I mean, my only dream as a kid, as far as what I wanted to do, was own my own business. I didn't know what it was going to be, but
Mm-hmm.
I was sort of a failure as far as like in school. But I always felt, and my mom, I had a great mom, and she always had a lot of confidence in me. And she used to tell me, I mean, because I had such problems in school, she's like, what's important to me is like you're a mensch, you're like a good
Oh,
person. And
oh
she
my.
said, that is the most important thing I want you to be. And that was great advice. And I've always tried to do that and try to do the right thing. So, but I was really fortunate I had, a mom like that. Sort of interesting I just interviewed someone a couple hours ago, great guy. And he told me his parents they were both teachers and, or his mom was a teacher. And I think his dad was an engineer. And like, if he got an A minus, she was really disappointed in
Oh
him.
my.
I'm like, oh God, that would not have fit for me at all. Uh,
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And
yeah,
things have changed so much. And I think we have so much better understanding of neurodivergence and how
yeah.
people learn differently. Thank goodness. But boy, when we were growing up, I have some kind of crazy math something. I don't know what it is. I guess it's probably a disability. I don't
Mhm.
I don't do my own accounting.
Yeah.
I hire that
Oh,
out.
totally. Yeah.
And, you do what you're good at. And I always found it odd. I'm curious to hear your opinion. Like in school, you're supposed to be good at everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sort of weird. I was only good at things I liked.
Mm.
Oh my God, if I was like in science or any of the math classes, it was so difficult. But all of a sudden, like once I got to college and I was a marketing major, I'm like, wow, I understand this. I really like this.
Mhm.
And then I started getting all A's and all that. Once I was able to like work on something where, it had some meaning to me.
Clicked.
But
What that must have been quite a transformation in your own idea of who you were.
yeah, it totally was. And it actually, one thing that really helped me was because at the beginning of college, I think you have to have a 2.0 to stay in college. And I was just on the fringe there. And a friend of mine who was a couple years older, he was in a master's program. He said, listen, just just graduate anything. He's like, because once you're out of the real world, no one's going to care about your grades and all that. And it's fortunate that I had a couple people like that that were mentors that, gave me good advice. So,
Because you were a mensch and they want they want to hang out with you.
Right.
That's
Anyway.
great. It's really fun to have these kind of conversations, and I think we share this love for meeting people, even though virtually, and we probably won't cross paths. But it's so lovely to be able to connect with people who have had experiences that we can really appreciate, and some that are I don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
Sold 3 media companies and all of that.
Yeah. But we talked earlier that the podcast, and that it seems like you've had the same, come to the same conclusion. It's like, oh my God, having the podcast gives you this voice. And like, I've talked to so many different people that there's no way I would have ever met them or had any experience with them if it wasn't the podcast. So I think that fulfills a lot of needs for me. It sounds like for you too.
It's enriched my life. I mean, I'm a clinical social worker.
Right.
So my job has been very meaningful to me and fulfilling in a lot of ways. I mean, I love what I do, but then this came, my tech person said, I think you'd really like podcasting. And because I'm not one to let the grass grow beneath my feet, I think the next day I went to a friend of mine who had done a fly fishing meditation retreat with me. And I said, can I come over, Vicki, and talk to you? So I brought my laptop. I had no fancy equipment. I just went. And as she was talking, I thought, I don't care what happens. I have to do more of this. This is like, it's hard to describe what the joy, the deep sense of satisfaction and delight it brings. I mean, I have had interviews. I don't know if this has happened to you, where I literally, after we close out the platform, I had to compose myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, especially what you're doing, I have felt that way. And what's really nice too for me is my wife is a writer, so she writes the blog, based on the interview, and we write the newsletter together, and it's great. And what ends up happening is, for that, when I was doing it weekly, now monthly, you sort of fall in love with that guest, you really do. And it's like, and when you start digging a little deeper into, who they are and all that, I find it fascinating. And like I said, I think I'm on episode number 67. I correspond with probably about half of them on a fairly regular basis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really fun.
So you have this network. I have some people across, like, the UK is a little bit more progressed than US is, particularly for women and aging. So I have some people there, and I think a couple in Australia. But there's this sense of like, I know people like in these places that are really way out there. And there's something, I think that, as humans, of course, we all need that connection. And with COVID, it was tough, but there is something very, in my mind, very primitive about like, wow, look at us seeing each other and hearing each other without being distracted by scrolling. How often does that happen, where you can have a conversation with someone where you're fully engaged and nobody's looking at their screens?
Yeah. No, it's totally true. And if you think about it, most of your communication now is through text, and, the thought of actually talking to someone for 45 minutes is like unbelievable. I mean,
it's archaic.
Yeah.
It really is. I find that in therapy sessions too, even though now many of us have gone to telehealth, we're looking at each other and talking and thinking together for 50 minutes. And it feels very out of sync with what's happening in the rest of the world.
Yeah. Anyway, I totally agree. I had not thought about that, but it's the way we communicate now is absolutely awful, and it's like, I'll talk to like a younger person and I'm like, oh, have you talked to them lately? No, I don't need to. I just go on Facebook or Instagram and I see what they're doing. It's like, well, does that really give you an idea of how the person's doing? I mean, all of this is other on the beats and making you feel bad that you're not. I mean, that's instead of it.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny. Well, Carl, I would like to share with the audience where they can find you, and I love the variety of your show where you do this, unretirement, second, third act, and then by the way, let's talk about life lessons through pickleball. I just think that's just brilliant, and it's got such a lovely energy, and I could tell how much fun you're having. So where can people find you?
Well, the best thing to do is just Google Pickleball Media, and it'll pop up our site, and it'll talk about our podcast. I used to be somebody, and also talks about our book, Pickleball for Dummies. And we didn't really go into that, but that's been like an incredible thing for me as far as working with my friends, and my wife on that book, and it is selling like crazy. I really didn't know. I hadn't looked at a dummies book in a long time, but a dummies series, they are like category killers. I think there's like 28 pickleball books, if you can believe it. And we're either number one or number two. We've been for the past 4 months. And the only category in Amazon, obviously you could just go on Amazon and, just type in Pickleball for Dummies. But, they have different categories on Amazon. And ours is under racket. Although, as you know, Nicole, we don't use rackets. We use paddle. Anyway, and so it's the racket category is almost all tennis books. And there's over 300. And we're usually in the racket sports, number 4 or not between 4 and 10 out of 300, and beating all the tennis books. So anyway, so that experience has been great. But I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and having your audience listen to what I have to say.
So I want to make sure I get this right because I don't know if I heard it right. So it's pickleball, and what are the letters?
Oh, well, if you just Google Pickleball Media, media, it'll pop up, go. I mean, the actual website is Pickleball Media HQ, like headquarters.
Oh, got it.
Yes, yeah.
Got it. .com.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. And can they sign up for a blog or this newsletter that?
Yeah. Okay. So they'll pop up and they can subscribe to the newsletter. We have over 2,800 subscribers from newsletter. Yeah. So it's that's been really fun doing the newsletter too. And some people are not like, I'm an audio learner. I listen to tons of podcasts, but some people are more readers. And so some people just, read the newsletter and that's how they want to learn. And other people, want to do both as far as listening to podcasts and the newsletter.
I have a newsletter as well. It's the Zestful Aging Insider. And I always try to talk a little bit about like quirky details or backstories that don't make it on the interview.
Right.
That's fun. And it's a chance to be creative and show your own personality, I guess.
Yeah, it is. And we love doing the newsletter, and it's really been fun working with my wife. I mean, it's because if you have a situation with your spouse and they're not interested in what you do and all that, that's not that much fun. And
no,
she's just as interested in it and in the guest. But it's sort of funny when we were working on the Pickleball for Dummies book, they wanted it out as soon as they could. They saw the trend happening, and basically we wrote the book. Mo and Brienne did the heavy lifting on the technical stuff, but did it in like 5 months. And so all we're doing for 5 months was writing about pickleball, playing pickleball.
Oh my God, immersion.
Total immersion. And then we'd see friends or relatives, and like you were talking about, it was all pickleball.
Oh, gosh.
Diana, she's like, I think people are starting to back off from us. I'm like, I said, I think you're right. We need to really watch it on the pickleball talk.
This culty flavor, I'm sure you're familiar with the Holderness family.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Aren't they hysterical? They did some really good things about pickleball, and I thought they were so spot on about like, what's that weird sound? And then how it just develops really quickly. You're, all of a sudden, it's like I'm on vacation, but I got my paddles with me. Where can we play?
Yeah, they are hilarious. And if people haven't, just Google pickleball song and their pickleball video will pop up, and it's absolutely hilarious.
They do a great job, and I love the way the Penn, I guess, is diving for these balls in this competition, or like they're drinking and eating.
Right. No, they've done, I think, 3 pickleball videos, and I bought they have T-shirts. It just says pickleball y'all.
Okay.
And I'm a huge fan of theirs. But actually, Nicole, that was a great idea. Like on the traveling, my wife and I do not travel ever without our paddles.
That's
and
great.
We have met so many people.
It's magic. I went up to New Hampshire with my husband recently, and I'm calling around like some kind of, I don't even know, like a crazy woman in this rural town in New Hampshire. In the dead of winter, there's got to be pickleball somewhere indoors. And they actually called me back at in the Ossipee, New Hampshire town hall. Yeah, we have pickleball, and we picked up some random guy in the parking lot who couldn't find a partner. He had played. We're like, hey, you're coming with us. I mean, we'll never see him again, but it was just spontaneous and funny, and it's just it's a nice way to live.
It totally is. We were in Kauai. I live in California, so going to Hawaii is not that hard. And we're in Honolulu, which is a very small town. And we found all the pickleball players within like 5 hours of being there. So anyway, it was really fun.
That is so lovely. And to me, it's like it's like walking a dog, it makes it very easy to strike up a conversation, because it's not all, having to look someone and, be all serious. It's, oh, what's your dog's name? Oh, let's hit some balls. It really is a lovely connector. And I think that's why it's become so very popular. People are just desperate for fun and connection.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I have a feeling, Carl, we could talk for another hour or two, but I know you're a busy guy. So thank you so much for spending time with me and letting us learn some of the insights about unretiring and what makes life really juicy at this age.
I really appreciate it, Nicole.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.